How's it going, guys? Welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at another part of the song, Fear Is Not My Future. If you haven't seen the last video I did, I will leave a link in the description for you to check that out. But for today, I want to look at the part of the song that says, Heartbreak is not my home, you are. So heartbreak is one of those things that it's not easy to go through. And maybe you yourself haven't gone through it. But I'd say one of the most common reasons for heartbreak is breaking up with someone. I don't know if you have your own dating experiences or breakup stories, but if you have any funny ones that you'd like to share, you can leave them in the comments. But I wanted to kick things off by just sharing some of mine. So in junior high, I had dated a girl for a little bit. I thought, I liked her. I thought she liked me. But I was on a school trip. We went to the Renaissance Festival, and on the way back, when I was on the bus, she texted me and said that she wanted to break up with me. So obviously I was hurt from that. But to make matters worse, she told me that the only reason she was dating me was because her friend liked me. So I was like, wow, okay. But I guess in the end, I ended up dating that friend. So I guess it kind of worked out for her. When I was in high school as a freshman, my best friend and I, we dated two juniors. They were best friends. And, as freshmen, that was super cool that we were dating juniors. But when those relationships ended, the experience that myself and my friend had were very different. So for me, I felt like God was calling me to a time to just focus on him and to draw closer to him and to kind of just learn who I was before I started dating again. But for my friend, his breakup was a lot more difficult. While they were dating, they had apparently had a journal that they wrote back and forth. And after they broke up, he held on to that journal. And turned out that he was reading it frequently and kind of just making his heartbreak so much worse over time. And some of our friends in our friend group were over at his house, and they found that journal, and they found out what he had been doing, that he'd been reading it, and they actually made him that night go outside and burn it. So it's funny to talk about now, but in that moment he was really hurting. He was dwelling in that heartbreak. And we've had fun kind of talking about this. But all jokes aside, heartbreak can be really hard. And things happen in life that can just break you. The death of a loved one, your dreams being crushed, betrayal of someone you trusted, someone breaking up with you, or just seeing people hurting. There's a lot of things that can break your heart. And I want you to know that it's okay to feel that heartbreak. It's okay to feel broken at times. And you aren't sinning if you feel sad or even angry at God. But the key is not to stay feeling like that. Ecclesiastes 3:1-8. It's kind of a long section, so bear with me. It says, "For everything there is a season, a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what was planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace, a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace." So just like this verse says, there is a time for everything, but those times aren't meant to last forever. But the thing is, these verses aren't just instructing us, but it's actually a promise from God. God is promising that even though there is mourning, even though that there is, any of these things, specifically the for what we're talking about today, the verse that says there's a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, like that's a promise that God gives us, that even though we're mourning, there's a time of dancing to come. Even though we're weeping, there will be a time of laughter. And we aren't meant to dwell in our heartbreak, because God wants to bring us healing. Psalms 147 verse 3 says, he heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. So I don't know what you're going through, or even if you've experienced heartbreak, but I want to invite you into that healing. As much as heartbreak hurts, there are a lot of good things that can still come out of it. In the last video, we talked about how God uses, he can make all things for work for his good and work for good. And that falls, what we're talking about today falls right into that. That, heartbreak does hurt, and heartbreak can be painful and terrible, but that doesn't mean that God can't use that situation for good. Just to give you a quick example, when you have a death of a loved one, obviously that's really hard for you and your family, but what usually happens in those situations, you have friends and family gather together for the funeral and remember the loved ones, their life and all of the good things that happened. And in those times, those family and friends, they may have not seen each other for a long time. So that time of grieving and time of mourning, brings together people, and God can use that time for comfort and in peace in those situations that, otherwise could have been very painful and dark. So I don't ever want you to think that you are alone in heartbreak, because you aren't. If no one else is around, God is still there for you. And, you just have to call on him for his guidance, for ask him for his peace, for his joy, for his love, his grace, whatever it is that you are needing in that moment. Just call out to God and he will be there for you. And we can't let heartbreak consume us and make us do things that we will regret later. There's a saying that says, home is where your heart is at. So if you find yourself in heartbreak, if you find yourself lingering in that heartbreak for too long, it's probably going to start influencing other parts of your life. You may even start redefining your identity to fit into that heartbreak. And that's not what God wants for you. It's not what God wants for any of us. And in the lyrics for the song that we're looking at today, it says that heartbreak is not my home, you are. And it's okay to have heartbreak. It's okay to feel broken at times, but we can't let that become our dwelling place. We have to allow God to stay at the center of our lives and accept the healing that he offers us. If today you are watching this video and you are going through heartbreak, I just want you to know that you are not alone. There are so many others that have gone through heartbreak. And even, this may just be an exchange of video that you're watching, but I want you to know that if there is anything that you need prayer for, anything that you need someone to walk with you in, please leave a comment on this video, and I will happily, stand with you in that in prayer. And just know that you aren't alone. And I encourage you to find another believer, someone that can help encourage you and strengthen you during this time, because it's really important that, we don't stay in that heartbreak, because it can really start to affect our lives. If you're feeling broken, God can be there to put you back together. If you are feeling hurt, God can give you healing. And if you are feeling alone, God can be your friend. Whatever it is right now, God can be there for you. So I encourage you to lean into God and let him become your home.